So, welcome everyone to the first attempt at doing a training session sort of thing on Zoom. And what I'm going to do is, what we're going to do is we're going to go effectively from capture to competition. So I want to walk through my workflow to producing an image that doesn't do very well in competition. A couple of things we need to cover. So let's look at today's contents. The importance of choosing the right file format, making the right choice of your editing software, some basic editing, then creating a print or a PDI, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. File formats. Most digital cameras will offer you three types of file format. Certainly mine do. I can create JPEGs, TIFFs, and RAW. But what is the difference between those three file formats, and what should you use? Apologies if this is very basic for some of the members. It won't take very long. A JPEG can be considered to be like a digital Polaroid. It comes out of the camera as pretty much a finished item, whereas RAW and TIFFs are more like digital negatives. You need to do a little bit of work on them in order to be able to use them. So what are the advantages of using a JPEG? Well, they're widely supported. You can open them up with just about anything. They're reasonably small files, they're easy to work with, and can be shared very easily. The downside of them is that they generally use a lossy compression method, which means the reason that the files are smaller is that they have a more restrictive color space and generally have a lower image quality. TIFFs, on the other hand, use a lossless compression method generally, which means that they produce a huge file. Because they're such a large file, they're slower to work with, and they're not as easy to share as a JPEG. As a document, when you're editing it, TIFF will also allow you to support layers and transparency, much the same way as a Photoshop document does. My advice would be never ever shoot TIFF in a camera. I had somebody work for me once and it took him 6 weeks to recover for the plaster cast to come off. RAW. What's the advantage of RAW? Well, it gives you the maximum quality that your camera can produce. It has the best method for editing. And for me, the most important thing about it is it's almost impossible to damage the original image. The number of times where I have shot JPEG, taken it into Photoshop, resized it, and inadvertently saved the file at the resized version, overwriting my original and therefore losing it. All of the RAWs are non-destructive in the way that they edit. The original file is never ever changed. Downside, large files, they must be processed before anybody else can use them. And the real downside of them is that virtually all of the RAW formats are proprietary. Each camera manufacturer generally has their own different file format, and it varies from camera model to camera model as well. The slight caveat to that is DNG, which some cameras I know produce natively. That is Adobe's RAW file format, which is supposedly an open format, a bit like the equivalent of a PDF being an open document format. So how do you choose the right software? You have to basically define what is right. And that's going to vary from user to user. So what do you want to be able to do when you're editing images? Are you going to be processing RAWs? Do you want to be able to catalog, rank your images and find them later? What computer system do you use? And are you happy to pay a monthly or annual subscription fee? I did a spot of research, and there's a whole bunch here of different raw editors, varying in price from 15 quid a month. These are all available for both Mac and for PC. Capture One is the oddity in that you can pay either £15.75 a month, or you can pay £317 for a perpetual license. Most camera manufacturers will also supply a free raw editing software. But it's, in my experience, at least with Nikon, it's cumbersome and slow. So let me just move over to Lightroom. And what I want to do during the course of this demonstration is basically recreate the shot that I had in competition on Wednesday. This shot of Charlotte, which ended up as a black and white image. Okay, so there's a little bit of editing that's gone on to this. Because we're not doing a Lightroom tutorial, what I want to do is I'm going to ignore how we got the images in. Maybe at a later date, if there's interest, we'll do a proper Lightroom tutorial. But what I'm wanting to show here is the basic steps that I go through, which should be applicable to all editing applications. I have 14, I know it sounds a lot, I have 14 steps that I go through to prepare an image. And I always go through in the same sequence. My first step is to always denoise this image doesn't really need denoising. I will do it anyway. So in Lightroom, it's very simple. I just click the denoise button and it will trundle off. Take a few seconds to do. Sorry, just reading the comments. Okay, right. So almost there. It's a little bit slow today because everybody's watching and a little bit shy.
Okay, so if we could just, we've just got a little bit of choppy sound at the moment, Simon. So just obviously we can see on we can see on the screen that we're applying the denoise. So what would just go over again what we were doing for the denoise.
Okay, so all I've done is the denoise is only applied really if it's needed. This image didn't need it that much because it's effectively studio shot. It was shot in the garden. And contrary to the judge's suggestion, it was actually only shot with one light, not multiple lights. But anyway, on this image here, if I zoom in, there isn't I turn off the denoise, there isn't any noticeable really difference on that image. But as I say, my first step, it would be to denoise. If it's a really noisy image, I might increase the amount. I now only ever use Lightroom's denoise. Come back. I only ever, camera's gone. I only use Lightroom's denoise. I used to use the topaz filters, but life's easier if I just stay with everything.
So one of the other questions that's come in just on the fly here is from Stephen, and it was about when you applied the denoise. was that like a universal thing across the whole image, or was it just part of the
Yes.
yeah? So it was across the whole of the picture. Yeah.
Good question. To begin with, everything that I'm doing is universal across this image. Okay, so my first step is to apply the denoise. The next step is to apply a camera profile. Now, this is currently set at camera neutral. And in here, there are dozens and dozens of different looks that you can apply. But I only ever use basically two. I use camera neutral, or Adobe have got this adaptive color. And I will alternate between them to see which I prefer. The adaptive color for me has made this a little bit more crunchy. There appears to be more detail. So I'm quite happy to work there with this profile. As I say, that's just an initial look for the image. So I've applied my color profile. It's then, this is where David and I differ, I think. David, I believe, likes to crop at this point. I generally do my crops at the end of the sequence. So what I want to do next is I want to set the white balance for this image. It is slightly off. If I were a true professional, I would have had my color card out to make sure that I could capture the white point at the time that I shot it, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the white balance selector, and I'm going to pick something that I know ought to be neutral in this. It doesn't need to be white. It doesn't need to be black. It just needs to be something that ought to be a neutral color. And for me, I'm going to pick the whites of Charlotte's eyes. It's going to be close enough. Now, when I put the white picker over, you'll notice that underneath it, I've got the red, the green, and the blue values. And the image is slightly off. It's a little bit on the red side. So if I click on there, we've now got a much more neutral color. So the image is maybe a little bit now green. Anyway, I set my white balance to what I want to be neutral. I know that her top was not white, it was a sort of creamy color. The other thing I should point out is that the colors may look slightly different at the other end of a Zoom meeting. They won't necessarily match. But what I can do is, having applied my white balance, I can now adjust the color temperature, maybe a fraction. So I'm going to make it a little bit warmer. And what happens if I adjust the tint just a fraction? Yeah, I get a slightly better result. So these are, after applying my, setting my white balance, I'll adjust the temperature and the tint to get the image the way that I like it. Again, I'm still only dealing at the moment with global edits. So I'm not overly fussed at the moment about the skin texture. Next step would be to tweak the exposure. Now, when working with exposure, it's always important to have a look at the histogram, which is in the top right-hand corner in Lightroom. And histogram shows the exposure across the entire image. And the thing to worry about is if you've got a big spike at the left-hand edge or at the right-hand edge. That would indicate the image is underexposed or overexposed. And what I like to do is I like to turn on these little indicators in the corners. That will show for me on the image anything that is underexposed, it will color blue, and anything that's overexposed will be colored red. I can demonstrate this by, if I increase this, I've increased my exposure, and you'll notice now that there's a whole load of red showing on Charlotte's jumper. That's because that part of the image is now blown. It's overexposed. It has gone straight to white. Conversely, if I drag this down, you should start to notice that there is a blue line here. That indicates that that part of the image is pure black. That there is information that has been lost. Does that make sense?
I think it does. How can you just show where you were able to get the colors to show as you were tweaking the exposure bar? Whereabouts did you click to get that to come on and show as you were using the slider, showing the different colors that indicated underexposure or overexposure?
Okay, that's in the top of the histogram. In the top corners, you've got these little triangles.
Yep.
Okay, and if they have a white box around them, they are showing on the left-hand side the underexposure.
Yeah.
And on the right-hand side, they're showing the overexposure.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So you can toggle those on
and
off.
So let me, yes. I generally leave them on, knowing fine well that if I see any red speckles on my image, they're not really there. They're just a figment of my imagination. Okay. The next thing is I work through setting the exposure so that I'm happy with it. And I'm going to say somewhere around there will do. Step 7 is adjusting the contrast. So I might boost the contrast. And again, I'm still working here globally. It's across the entire image. So I adjust the contrast. That's kind of close. Next, we look at the highlights and the shadows. So if I drag the shadows all the way down, you notice that her top gets darker. If I drag it back up again. So at the moment, I am adjusting the highlights. I never, ever want to have it peaking at this end. So let's just bring those highlights down just a fraction. Shadows, if I drag the shadows all the way down, again, we get this blue marker here to say that that's underexposed, or to say that it's pure black. If I drag it the other way, we get more detail in her hair. So I'm going to have it, I think, somewhere around about there. We get a nice bit of detail in the shadows, but it's not blocked out. We can also improve the whites. Let's bring those down just a tad. And the blacks. Now, I might drag the black until we get a little blue marker up here. That indicates that I am right on the edge of it being underexposed. Let's just drag that up just a fraction, because we get judges that complain that we don't have full tonal range in an image. So I want to go from black to very nearly white. But I don't want to have a huge amount of either in the image. Okay, everybody happy so far?
Simon, we have a question. We've got one from Ian Maxwell, and this is about just trying to understand the histogram. Do you want, do you edit, or do we want to try and maximize the peaks on the histogram, or what affects the maximum of the histogram? What actually does affect the peaks, and what would be the sweet spot? What are we actually looking for with the histogram?
Okay, it's on an image like it will depend upon the image that you're working on as to how the peak should look. If I just quick, one of the beauties of Lightroom is that I can swap images and it will remember the edit settings that I've got. If I swap to this image here, you'll notice that I get a much different histogram because full of dark of the image, because it's clearly a stage photograph. And so the peaks on histograms show how much of this, let me go back. Imagine that this histogram is showing me the light value, ignore the colors, it is showing me the values of the brightness of the image in 256 shades of gray, from absolute black, which is 0, to white, which is 255. Okay, so for each of those steps, those shades of gray, if you will, we can see. So at this point here, let's say that this has got a gray value of, I don't know, 10. And we have got more of this shade of gray than we have of black. Does that make sense? Graham's looking confused. Are you happy? So all this is showing you is how much brightness there is in each of those channels across the image range. So you can't say that you should always have a nice bell curve. I've seen that said, that you want this kind of histogram where it increases through the midtones and then fades off either end. That is very, very much dependent upon the subject that you're editing. In this case here, a nicely distributed histogram works well, but on an image that's predominantly dark or predominantly light, it will be completely different.
I think what I was trying to get at, Simon, was that when you change some of these values, obviously the peaks go up and down, and whether you want to try to maximize the peaks or you know, sometimes you hit a slider and the peaks decrease. I'm just wondering, you know, what if anything that has an effect on the picture or not.
Well, I say the histogram is simply showing you the values that are in the image, and it's just a visual way of representing that and giving you a warning that, for instance, you'll notice on the histogram, I've actually also got, you've got the white, which is the luminance, and then you've got the red, the green, and the blue channels. So I can see if I was adjusting some of the other color settings further on down, I can see on the histogram how the change maybe in the cyan channel is affecting the image. For the moment, I would just say, make sure that you don't have a big spike at either end of your histogram. Moving on, we've done the highlights and the shadows, we've set the blacks and the whites, and this is all there is no right or wrong. This is an artistic choice of how you want this image to look. I'm going to just lift the blacks just a tad because they were just a little bit dark in here. So still, I'm working globally. Having set my blacks and whites, we're on to step 10, which is texture and clarity. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just zoom to maybe not 300%. Let's work at 100%. Whoops, undo that, Simon. What we want to do is we want to just drag this, and I'm going to look here. I'm just going to increase some texture, which if I drag it all the way up, you'll notice we get a very, very detailed and sharp image. But you also notice, I don't know if it's clearly visible here, but as I increased the texture, we've started to get some black clipping in here, because basically all we're doing on any of these controls is adjusting the contrast, but it's doing it in different ways and within different ranges. So I'm going to bring the texture up to maybe there. And again, clarity will do the same. That's going to crunch. It's going to make it slightly darker. But if I drag it the other way, we end up with a horrible plasticky. So as with all the sliders, I'm adjusting it to get the effect that I find the most pleasing. Dehazing, again, is introducing an awful lot of, is moving the histogram to the left a lot. So somewhere, just a little bit of dehaze. So I've now got the image the way that I would like it. I can adjust vibrance and saturation if I need to. I don't think, yeah, that's, yeah, a little bit Oompa Loompa. It's the Donald Trump filter. Somewhere there. So I have now done the global edit to the image. I'm happy with this as it stands as the overall. I would now move on to correcting issues with the image. So my first point of call is I'm going to create a mask for the skin. I don't know for applications with this. Lightroom's masking is fairly awesome these days, in that using AI, it has identified that we have a person who we should call person one. If I click on that, I can select the entire person, just the facial skin, the body skin, the eye sclera, the pupil, the lips, the teeth, the hair, and the clothes. And I can create those all as individual masks, so I can work on each aspect of that image independently and non-destructively. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to take the eye sclera, so the whites of the eyes, and I should create a mask for it. Here's mask, and if I zoom in on the eyes, it now looks like she's really had a heavy night. But I can increase the exposure maybe a little bit, boost the whites, and I'm only affecting that part of the image, not the rest. So tweak that, then create another mask. Let's just add a mask, select the people again, and let's do the iris, create the mask. And in here, we could change the color of our eyes a fraction if we wanted to. So it zoomed in, we can change the hue. So give her green eyes or whatever. I'll just put that back. But what I wanted to do was I want to increase the clarity just a fraction, and maybe a bit of texture. And let's dehaze it. So just brought out a little bit more detail in her eyes. Create another mask. Select the person one, and let's take the facial skin and create a mask. And let's zoom in up here. And maybe what I want to do on this is to take the dehaze, and we're just going to soften that down just a fraction. Maybe reduce a little bit of texture. Take a little bit of clarity out. So I can build up a variety of different masks. Let's do another one quickly for her hair. So we've got a hair mask. And on this, I'm going to boost the exposure fraction, ramp up the contrast. Shadows. So I've got a bunch of masks that I've created, and I can do a before. So that's without the masks applied. That's with the mask. I've taken that out right, but it doesn't matter. You get the point. The next issue that I've got, and I know that it really upset her, was that there is a gap in her hair. And so what I needed to do was clone that out. I've had a brain fart. Come back to that in a second. So, does it make sense how we're doing the masked edits?
I think it makes sense. We've got a couple of bits where the audio and the visual are a little bit choppy, and I think sometimes where we've tried to, or where you've tried to explain something, it's taken a little while for the picture to actually to catch up. So
okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repair this issue with her hair. So I'm doing that with the remove tool. And I ought to be able to just paint that in there. Yeah, I'll just use the heel brush. That'll do. I can select where it is that it's come from and where it's putting it in place. You can also use AI to do this. Let's undo that. So we've masked the bits that we needed to adjust. What I want to do now is I want to convert this to black and white. There are a myriad way of doing this. Let's close that down. Come back to here. How can you convert this to black and white? Easy way is you could take the saturation out completely. Doing that, I might want to adjust the brightness and levels again. But it's important that I have done the removal of the saturation globally, so I've not got one of the masks selected. If I undo that, you've also got a black and white option up here under the basic section. You can also apply a whole load of different looks, but we're not going to go there today. The final thing to do before exporting this for use in competition is I would scroll all the way down to the Effects tab, and I would apply a post-crop vignette. If I drag the amount slider to the right, it puts a white vignette in. If I drag it to the left, it puts a black vignette in, or dark vignette. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
And can everybody see the black vignette?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about that?
You would, Simon, you do all this before you crop?
I do, yes, because I don't know at this point here what I'm going to do with this image.
Okay.
If I knew that this was only ever going to be used as a PDI, I might crop it. And again, this image here is a little fake. It doesn't need, I don't think it doesn't need cropping. You know, it's, if I were to be working on that image, then I may have cropped already, but probably not. I generally do my cropping towards the end. It's each to his own. I don't think there's any right or wrong. I guess if you crop earlier in your workflow, you've got less image to work on and to worry about whether the corners are getting dark or whatever. But I always do my cropping towards the end of the process.
Okay.
Because I would have a different crop on an image if I'm going to print than I am if I'm going to a PDI, because I need to allow space on the print for the mount to go over.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody happy with that?
Don't forget, of course, as well. Even if you do crop at the start, if you think that you're going to do something for a PDI, or if you're doing something for a specific print size, you can always go back and revisit your crop later in the edit. Somewhere, something like Lightroom, you can always go back to the cropping tool and crop the image bigger. As long as you've got the available information in your original image. So if you do think, I've cropped to a, don't worry about cropping. You can always go back and recrop later.
The other thing, crop, and you apply your adjustments. The adjustments aren't just on the crop; they're on the whole image.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing that you can Sorry, Simon.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing that you can do after you've done all of your edits is create a copy of the image and apply different crops to the different copies. So you've got multiple copies of the same thing exactly how you want them.
Okay.
Yes. But the beauty of Lightroom is that it maintains a history in the left-hand panel of everything that you have done to an image. So I can scroll backwards through absolutely every step that I have made to see what I've done. And I could say, okay, from this point here, I don't want any of the other edits that I've done. I want to revert back to here and just start editing that from there onwards again. But let's not. Let's go back to. I'm going to go back to my finished black and white image. Let's finish black and white, please. Right. So there's my finished black and white image. I now need to print this. I never, ever print from Lightroom. I just don't get on with its print module. It's not for me. There's a couple of reasons. The major one is that the printer that I use is a printer is 610mm wide. That's what the paper's loaded. So I actually want to print more than one image at once. And anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to briefly go through how I would then print this image. And I have a strange way of doing it. I fully appreciate that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this the image, I right-clicked on it, I'm going to go to Edit In, and I'm going to edit it in Photoshop. It will work exactly the same way editing it in anything else. But give me a moment and Lightroom will send the image over to Photoshop, and here we are with Photoshop open. Everybody can see that, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So here is my image that has been exported from Lightroom with all of the adjustments and everything on it. What I want to do is I want to produce a competition print from this. My trick for doing this is I will straight away in Photoshop go to create a new document, leaving this one open. I'm going to create a new one, and it is going to be 400mm wide. Oops, not quite that big sign. 400mm wide and 500 high. And I'll have a white background. So this is the canvas. Ignore the rulers. This is the maximum size canvas that I can put into a competition. I'm going to come back to the photo of Charlotte. I'm going to pick up the background and drag it and drop it over my white print. Okay, so this has brought that image onto my competition mount. What I can then do is I press Command or Control T to transform this, and I can then scale that down. Holding the Shift key will keep the height to width ratio the same. I do it this way because I can now work out how big a border I want on this print. Okay, so I think having a border, yeah, that sort of size would work. Does that make sense? I can then, so I can take the measurements for my cardboard. I know that that's, I'm working on a 400mm wide board. Let's measure this in, we are in centimeters. So let's just place that in place. I want a border that is 4 centimeters wide, top and bottom. My next step would then be to create a quick, this drives me nuts. You have to apologize. I have to apologize. I have confusion because I have two screens, one above the other, and Lightroom, I get confused because moving left and right. Move that. So what I've done is I've put a black blob on a new layer that is the width of my border. Drag that over here. I now know that I can crop my image. Let's zoom out to fit on screen. Let's hide that because I don't need it. I can crop where's my crop tool? There. So I'm going to select the crop tool. Let's clear that. If I drag to this point here and down to the bottom, dispense with that layer. There, I have got an image that is equally balanced. And I can take all of my measurements off this, write it on a piece of paper, and I know the width of the border that I've got to cut. I know it's a little confusing the way that I do it, but it works for me. I would then send that off to the printer and, oops, hang on a second. Thank you. The coffee wall has just turned up.
I think, Mark, I think just as a brief pause there, I think Simon was showcasing the merch that is available for Dunchurch Photographic Society, the DPS mug. Get your orders in.
It's self-refilling. It'll be back up in a moment. It's well controlled. So as I say, that's how I would go about doing a print. And I say I do this because I'm crap at measuring things with a ruler. I find it much easier. I then prior to going to print, I add text that the judge will never see, that will have the dimensions of the card, the dimensions of the borders, so that I can do all of my prints in advance, and I then just go downstairs with all of the prints, and all of my dimensions are on there, which means I can cut my mounts nice and quickly and easily. The final bit would be to how do we create a PDI of this? My first step would be to stop this being a flat document. I do that in Photoshop simply by clicking on the little padlock on the layer. I don't want a flat background. I want a single layer. I then go to image size, and ask our competition secretary, what's the maximum height? Oh, he's gone.
Andrew.
Oh, no, he isn't. He's just not talking. No, it's 1200, isn't it? Is it? Yeah. No, yes. So I would set the height of this to being 1200
wide, Simon.
Sorry?
1600 wide, I think.
Yes, 1600, yes. But only 1200 high.
1200 high, yeah.
Yes, and so because I'm working on a portrait image, I don't care about the width, it's the height. So I would create that, I'd resize it to being 1600 high. Okay, so there is my image that has been resized. What I'd like to do now is, in fact, I should have done it. I should have listened to Graham. So in the canvas size, I'm going to change my canvas size now to being, let's measure in pixels for this one. And I'm going to send it to being 1600 wide and leaving it 1200 high. I'm going to create a new layer. If I hold down Command or Control when I click on New Layer, it adds the layer behind the currently selected one. So a useful little trick there. And I'm just going to flood that in black. So I did an Alt backspace to fill that layer in black. So I always supply my competition entries at the maximum dimension available. But the one thing that I think we get so much feedback from judges that you should add a key line to your image, that I think that we ought to make it a rule for competitions that all projected images should have a key line, just to shut the judges up. Because if every judge does that on every image, it takes them 30 seconds to say that. On 70, we could save half an hour just by having a rule that says all images should be keylined. I am, of course, joking. The way that I would keyline that image is I would go to, I would add an effects layer. I would add a stroke to it. I'm going to make it really noticeable at the moment. So I've got a big border around that, and I want to select a color. Don't select white, don't select black, but select a tone that is within the image itself. Let's go with somewhere there. That will do. And I would only ever really have the border maybe 3 or 4 pixels wide maximum. So that will do.
You tend to find, one of the things that we found a couple of weeks or so ago at the Badby Challenge was that there were some images in there, obviously because it was a projected competition rather than a print competition. There were a number of projected images in that competition which had really, really large borders, like white borders.
Okay.
And the judge was very, very critical of those. So your sweet spot with it, I mean, it's personal preference. And obviously when you edit your pictures, you edit them how you want to display them yourself. But if you're putting them into a competition, either at Dunchurch or if you're looking to put something into an international exhibition or whatnot, your sweet spot is probably 1 to 3 pixels really as a key line.
The important thing is that it doesn't, as I say, the key line doesn't have to be white. In the nature competitions, if I were doing this with the Osprey shot, I would almost certainly put a green-based stroke around the image, because you don't want something really white at the edge of the frame, because the judges will lose control of their eyes and they'll just wander all over the place again. So as I say, the way that I always apply my the key lines around it is just to use the stroke layer, and always make sure that you have it set to the position to being inside. Because if you do it outside, because this image is 1200 pixels high, there is no space outside for that key line to fit. And so we would only have them at the edges and not top and bottom. So always have that set to inside. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. I would then export that as a JPEG. As a JPEG. It didn't listen. Voice recognition's not working. And because for some perverse reason we can send 10 megabyte small files, rank the quality as high as it'll go. And then just export that to a suitable location. Mine's going to have a hissy fit now because I'm taking the drive offline. But anyway, so let's export it there. And that's it. So then that image is then ready for uploading to photo entry.
Did you talk about the color profiles that were required? So I missed a little bit.
No. I know you did, because I asked you a question and you just weren't there. You let me down.
No, I'd gone to get coffee, then kicked a step on the way up the stairs and spilt a little bit. So I had to clean up.
Dear.
So,
oh well, such is life. No, I didn't mention color profiles because that wasn't. I don't want to go anywhere near colors today.
No,
really.
It's okay. It's just that as you're exporting on Adobe, I don't know what it's like anywhere else. You can export a profile embedded with your picture. If you're not sure what you want to do with it, you're better not to export the profile and just leave it empty, and it will be assigned sRGB when it goes into photo entry. So if you're going to export again, Simon, we won't export it. You can change it down there, further down as well. But down at the bottom.
Yeah, we've got convert to sRGB.
And there's the one underneath which is embed it into your file.
Mm-hmm.
Only embed it if you know that it's going to be. If you go back into File Edit and go down to Profiles under Edit, Simon, please.
Under Edit.
Yeah. Down at the bottom, you've got Assign Profile.
Oh, right. Yeah. Let's not go there today. That's too in depth to start talking about color spaces and what we're working on. Today was simply the edit workflow.
No, that's fine. In that case, when you're exporting and we haven't covered color, just don't embed it, leave it blank, and then the system will pick it up for the right one.
Just when you're exporting a JPEG, convert it to sRGB.
Yeah.
Because JPEGs really ought to be sRGB.
Yeah.
But as I don't want to go anywhere near describing color spaces today, because that's hours on its own.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay. So there we go. That's how the steps that I go through to produce an image that doesn't win. All that effort for an image the judge doesn't like. It's great.
Simon, I think I might have missed one or two of the steps. Could you just on somewhere externally just write down those 11? Was it 11 steps?
A briefing document.
Thank you. I've got that now. Thank you.
Yes. I can send over there were some more slides in the slide deck that featured this, but I'll send that out to everybody as a PDF with the steps that I take. That's not a problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
No problem at all.
Yeah, thanks.
So, any other questions? Now that we've reached the sort of the Q&A stage.
Simon, what about sharpening for presentation?
Okay. Yeah. Yes, that's a good point. If an image does need sharpening, then I would apply it. It depends. I would only apply the sharpening at the point of export. Okay, there is no point in me sharpening an image and then resizing it to be a PDI.
Yep.
It makes more sense to resize it and then sharpen the image if you need to. In this instance, with the shot of Charlotte, I'm happy enough with the sharpness of it anyway. But yes, and just with as with all the other sliders, there is no, I can't say you slide it to this value. You slide it until you're happy. If I go to filter, let's not use the AI stuff. Do an unsharp mask. And let's zoom in here. That's much for this image. But yes, I would apply, if I felt an image needed sharpening, I would apply it immediately prior to exporting it. Be that a JPEG or a print.
Like everything else, like everything else, Simon, we'll come back to this at another time, but there's a number of ways of doing sharpening as well, destructive and non-destructive. So,
yes, that's right. Yes, this was the cheap and nasty way of doing it.
Yeah.
But,
well, you can still do it non-destructive using layers, but we'll cover that.
Yes. At another point, yeah. But the whole point of today was to try and show a workflow that is as software agnostic as we can be. That pretty much all of these steps ought to be attainable, whether you're using Lightroom, whether you're using Capture One, whether you're using Affinity or Luminar Neo, that they should all have similar functionality. And so, please, could you show me how you did the clone again? Maybe explain it in more detail. Yeah, I could do that. So let's come out of here. I'm going to quit out of Photoshop because I don't need it anymore. And let's go to this image here. So this is an unedited image. Let's just quickly denoise this one because it is a little bit noisy. If I zoom in, oh, come on. What have I done there? There we go. If I turn the denoise off, you'll see that this image here is quite noisy. Turn the denoise back on, and the image becomes much cleaner. The clone tool, this image here, I find really annoying. I find that offensive. And I find this to be offensive. So in Lightroom, on the removal tab, I'm just going to use the eraser tool. And I've got generate, I'm going to use generative AI. And I'm just going to paint that out. Let it do its analysis. It's close. I'm going to add a little bit to that. I'm going to add a bit to there. And maybe get that bit out as well. So I've just highlighted the thing that I want it to clone out. And hit return. It's going to go off and do its AI wizardry. And there you go. It has removed that annoyance. You can do the same over here, take that bit out, and just say remove. The AI removal tool works best if you don't do everything all in one go. If you give it bits to work on. So rather than say remove all of that and all of that in one go, you do them in discrete sections. So let's remove that bit there. And just remove that. There we go. So that's cleaned that up using the generative AI. I think that makes a slightly better image. The white balance on this image is way, way off. So let's find something that should be close to being a neutral color. And I'm going to pick the spot on the back there. That's a better color mix. The exposure. Now the masking tool now starts to get clever because it also has a landscape masking tool. I don't know how it's going to cope with this one. It's picked up vegetation and foreground. But the AI detector, if you give it a landscape image, it is quite happy to find mountains, rivers, water, sky, trees, and it will build your masks independently for each one of those things. It's very, very clever. But anyway, so I say, the masking, you simply paint over what you'd like to remove. Let's get rid of that. The attempted murder. Poof. Bird be gone. Does that work?
It works, but it says it probably needs refining. Looking at it, it's a bit greener there in line with the background. How would you fix that?
Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't bother.
You wouldn't bother?
Because I put it to you. I wouldn't bother because I put it to you. You wouldn't notice that
if you hadn't just seen it.
If you hadn't have seen it there.
Possibly true.
Yeah. But you could also, should you so wish, you could use, I don't know, the clone tool and clone stuff in. You can apply edit upon edit upon edit to fix it. But in my case, I wouldn't notice because I can guarantee the judge wouldn't notice.
True. They're not that observant, are they?
Unless they've watched this video.
True.
Yes, unless they've seen the video. And I can categorically say that if this image was used in competition, I wouldn't remove the bird because that's kind of integral.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a thing under a tree.
No, the bird there does make and the fact that
I do what Andrew does, mainly, even though I agree with Simon that no one knows, but I know. And so I tend to clone it in. If it hasn't quite, like taking the bird up, for instance, it left a green blob there. I would have done what Andrew said and cloned it in because I know it's there. Every time I look at the image, I think that's not right. Even though quite agree with you, the judge wouldn't know and you wouldn't know. But I know.
No, that's right. So you see, the thing that really, really I cannot get to grips with on this image is this is the wrong way round. This isn't how I shot it. I flipped it horizontally because I know that in competition the judge will say he doesn't like the tree being here. But this is wrong. And if I can teach myself to cope with the fact that this image is the wrong way around, I can ignore a green blob that the judge isn't going to notice.
If you've turned it around, would it no longer be a nature shot?
That's a good question.
I think it still classifies as nature because you haven't actually altered the components of the image. You've just changed it to make it fit the way people's eyes work.
Yeah, it's the way we read things, yes, left to right.
It is.
In Japan, they'd probably be
the question. Flipping it is no problem because in the olden days, you could have loaded the slide in the backwards. Yeah. The question is it acceptable that I have removed the twig?
That was my next question.
Under
this
rules,
bit here,
I think it is. Because they say minor items that don't affect the composition of the image. I think it's the way they phrase it for tidying up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the minor tidying up, because you only moved what, 1%, 2% of the pixels in the image.
Yeah, it's I say it's a minefield, and yeah.
And it's virtually impossible.
And I used AI to do it.
And it's virtually
it is. That's right.
To tell. You say you used AI to do it. You could still have done it by using masking and going about it yourself. Just AI makes it quicker.
But okay,
but you
fine. Going back to my hated image of borrowers.
Yeah,
I could have gone through and drawn each pixel by hand and produced the same image.
Yeah.
But I used some software to do it for me instead.
Yeah.
If so, are you saying at what point does using the software become not doing it right? It's a minefield.
I honestly don't know.
No, neither do I. Neither do I. I am happy with that, with it as an edit, but I don't know whether it complies or not.
Just anyway. For people that are watching a video, obviously you mentioned that you'd flip the image, and I know Stephen asked the question, but he's been able to figure it out. But could you just show where you would point to actually flip the image if you were going to work on something different?
That's a good question. I would need to have a look. I've forgotten now.
Flip the image on the crop page.
Right, I'm on the crop page.
You've got the option to flip the image there.
Have I?
Yeah, somewhere. It's one of the. I know how to do it in Photoshop quite quickly.
Yeah. I thought if you right click on the image on the library at the bottom, I'm pretty sure there's an option on there to flip the image. Perhaps not. Or you can rotate it.
Yeah.
Yes, but then we just end up with upside down.
It's under image.
Oh, Stephen, he worked it out.
He's worked it out.
Yeah. If you go into image, there's a setting there. You just have to click it.
Sorry, whereabouts?
Image, is it? I just had a look at it.
Or photo.
Or photo, rather. Photo. Yeah. Photo. If you go to photo.
Oh, flip horizontally. There we go.
There you go. It's one of those things that you do by muscle memory, but you can't explain it.
Yeah. Ooh. That's how it was shot. That's the right way. Anyway, if it gets used, it'll be this way. Any other questions?
No, that's been brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's been really,
I was
really
going to say,
Excellent.
I have one question. Has this been useful?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah.
Even though I don't use this software, the software I use does very similar things. And it's just each strokes and different titles and different names and things like that, but it's still very useful.
Yeah, I'm the same. It was the software, but I was going through following you on my own software when you were doing it. So it's very good to keep it agnostic. I think that's really useful.
Yeah, me too, David. I did much the same.
Yeah.
Does that mean you've now got a picture of a deer with a bird on it, David? If you've been following it along.
I'm going to enter it for the next competition.
Yeah, I've just downloaded it as well. But I'm going to flip it the other way. Just
Put it upside down.
What do you think this is?
Simon, I'd really appreciate if you didn't enter it so I can enter it instead. All right.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not going there about you entering deers.
Paul's going to do
really good. Thank you very much.
Paul's going to do a competition next year. Deer with a bird.
Can I ask then, if everybody's happy, can I ask for more suggestions on what else we can cover in these sort of sessions? So give it some thought, let us know, and we'll take it from there. I'd be really, really happy if other people could do some presenting, as I'm sure you lot would be as well.
I know there was one thing that that Greg asked earlier about lens distortion.
Okay.
I think there's a set of sliders relating to lens distortion.
There is. What's going on?
Whether that's something that can be quickly looked at today, or if it's something that might benefit from a longer session at another time.
In the develop settings, there's a lens correction. I forget about it because I have it turned on always. But in Lightroom, you've got an option to remove chromatic aberration and to enable profile corrections. And Lightroom knew what lens I was using and has automatically applied it. If I turn it off, you'll notice that the image shifted slightly and there's a bit of lens vignetting coming. If I turn it back on again, it moves ever so slightly. I always have that turned on, which is why I'd forgotten to mention it. But yes, you can apply your own adjustment to it if you feel that you need to. But it's one of those things that I have it turned on and I forget about it completely.
It's sometimes useful if you've got you're using legacy lenses or anything like that, or you just want to you want to have a vignette anyway. Just take them off. And sometimes it looks better than the corrected image, so it might be useful.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that I should mention is getting things level. Let's take this image. The number of times we have judges complain about things not being level. If you're using Lightroom, there's really no excuse, because you just come to the crop tool up here and you can pick up the spirit level by clicking on it, and then you can measure something that should either be horizontal or vertical. So I just clicked and dragged out and I say, okay, that should be vertical, and then hit enter, and that's rotated the image. The difficulty with stage photography is trying to work out what you think should be level. And in my case, I'd actually be more tempted to go with making sure that the riser that they're on is flat. So there should be no excuse at all for wonky horizons.